Welcome to Tita Talks. My name is Sonia Tita Popolo, and I'm your host. It is a great privilege and pleasure to welcome back David Skinner from Ottawa, Canada. David is the president of the International Self-Care Foundation. He is passionate about self-care. For more than 30 years, he served as president of Consumer Health Products Canada and as a board director for the Global Self-Care Federation. And today, we're talking about the healing power of wellness, a self-care tool for you, and International Self-Care Day 2023. Welcome back to Tita Talks, David.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
We're delighted that you're here. Self-care is defined as the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness. It is the ability of individuals, families, and communities to promote health, prevent disease, and maintain health. Good health, as you know, is our most prized possession that can generate a positive mindset of confidence, enthusiasm, strength, and joyfulness. One must take the necessary steps to improve their health and well-being. And we believe that living well is a necessity for every human being on the planet. That is 7.9 billion people. Some of the characteristics of self-care are being aware, kindness, the choices we make, attention we give, our priorities, community, and so forth. Can you tell us, David, what inspired you to become the president of the International Self-Care Foundation?
Well, it's my inspiration must have come many decades ago. I've been involved with self-care since about 1979. So I started my career back then advocating for self-care and advocating for people's ability to choose things that they have available to them that are safe, effective, etc., and will benefit their health, not just in terms of addressing ailments that exist, but preventative care, a big feature. And as time goes by, the whole nature of self-care's value kept evolving, and more information became available. And I was involved with a number of research studies that looked at, well, quite frankly, all the aspects of the value of self-care to healthcare systems and individuals. That's, quite frankly, a very fascinating area for me. And so since my background was in research, and then I managed to carry it through the rest of my career with a focus on self-care, it's been sort of a lifelong inspiration rather than, I never had an aha moment. I guess I more evolved than was a big bang.
Right. And the International Self-Care Foundation has developed the 7 pillars of self-care. So let's talk about that. Can we walk through those 7 pillars? The knowledge and health literacy, right?
Sure. One of the things about the 7 pillars of self-care is it fits in extremely well with the totality of what people need to do to really optimize their ability to be well. Right. Certainly, there's an opportunity for people to focus on maybe 1 or 2 of these pillars, and that's always good. Like the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Right. And so we look at 7 pillars. It's not really a coincidence that the first pillar is knowledge and health literacy.
Yes.
Because that is so fundamental to be able to apply all of the other self-care activities in your life. It really is that front and center pillar. And by that, I mean, health literacy. So we often talk, and IS talks about self-care literacy. And we know that there are many things that you can do to learn more about illness, about preventing illness, about staying healthy, and so on. But you don't have to do this journey on your own. Self-care is not just for the self-carer, but also for the people that they care for other people that care for them. And the self-care literacy aspect is really understanding that you can go out and get help in your self-care journey. You don't have to totally rely on yourself, and don't be shy. So building that knowledge base about what you can do, how you can do it, what resources are available to you. You can always ask pharmacists for information, your family doctor, families members who have experienced similar things, and maybe are embarking on a new healthy eating strategy. There are just many tools that enhance your knowledge and increase your self-care literacy.
Mm. Yeah.
That's kind of followed by the second pillar is mental well-being. And in a post-COVID environment, and while we're not really totally post, we are
Yes.
sort of geopolitically post.
Right.
There is a real residue of mental uneasiness, anything from severe anxiety to just minor mood disorders and so on. But mental well-being is pivotal to physical well-being. If
Yes.
you're not thinking in terms of how do I function well in society and with my family and so on, that whole mental aspect, then you're probably not going to be motivated to do things in other areas of self-care. And so just a quick reflection back as to what we're looking at this year in terms of International Self-Care Day is we're going to be focusing on these first two pillars. And I'll talk a bit about that later.
Okay, great.
The third pillar is one that, immediately springs to mind for people when they're talking about self-care and preventative care, and that's physical activity.
Yeah.
It's a bit scary for some. So physical activity, what does that mean? Do I have to become a marathon runner? No, no. In fact, there's been plenty of studies that show that regular physical activity of any intensity is better than none whatsoever. And so for people that want to maintain sort of a healthy metabolism and good physical activity, it can mean something like just getting up and walking around for 5 minutes every hour or so. Don't sit at your desk all day long. Get out and take a little bit of fresh air in. Walking is one of the best exercises you can do for cardiovascular and overall health. You can support that with some lightweight or resistance training and so on. And you don't have to do this for hours a day, even just 2-3 times a week. So that whole notion of physical activity it's pivotal in all of the 7 pillars. But just like everything else we say, don't overdo it. It's the old adage that if a little is good, a lot is better. It's not always true.
Yes.
and that we apply it, just carry that thinking over to the healthy eating pillar.
Yes.
Some people feel, well, I got to eat more healthy, and quite frankly, it's just small steps you need to take towards eating the right balance of foods, and knowing sometimes you have dietary allergies may prevent you from getting all the nutrients that you need, but you have self-care supplementing that is available to you to make sure that your overall intake of nutrients is well balanced and good, not overly caloric, but certainly we're not going to starve ourselves to death.
Right.
There's so much, there's so many resources available for how to eat healthy and enjoy it.
Yes.
It should not be torture.
Exactly.
But we get so many benefits from the food we eat. It's the old Greek philosopher who said, food is our best medicine.
Yes, Socrates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the 5th pillar is called risk avoidance.
Yes.
And, these are the things that you do so that you prevent further diseases and or accidents, etc. So, typical risk avoidance thing is, wearing a motorcycle helmet when you're riding your motorcycle. But it goes much beyond that. I mean, tobacco use, that's one well-known cause of mortality and morbidity that can be avoided. Just eliminating that risk alone would immensely save lives.
Right.
And you know, again, with many things in risk avoidance,
Yes.
there are you know, good benefits to kind of weaning yourself off. So you can't often just quit cold turkey for smoking, but there are people that can help. There are programs that can help. There are products that can help. The overall intent here is to cut down on things that contribute to what, you know, WHO really focuses on: non-communicable diseases.
Right.
And this lifestyle type diseases.
Yes.
And this is what, you know, these last three pillars are really talking about:
Right.
activity, eating, risk avoidance. These are lifestyle issues where if you take good care in these areas, you're going to benefit immensely for cardiovascular, brain health. It has an anti-aging effect. These pillars are fundamental to good life, good quality of life, and good longevity.
Yes.
The sixth pillar is good hygiene, and never before had then it was so apparent to us
Yeah.
than when we saw what happened with COVID-19. And you know, good hygiene practices, hand washing, how you deal with your environment, clean areas for work and for food preparation and so on. A lot of things in the world are communicable diseases that are communicated through touch or proximity,
Right.
and a vast number of these kinds of airborne, touch-borne
Right.
diseases can be eliminated just with good hygiene.
Right.
And not, you know, when I use good hygiene, I'm also including things like dental health,
Oh,
brushing your
absolutely.
teeth.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
this is one of the fundamental things.
Yeah.
And poor oral hygiene leads to other diseases. So, you know, just looking after your teeth, your mouth, your gums can prevent a lot of these diseases.
Even on, I wanted to mention, even on the Apple Watch, you know, even when you're washing your hands, it tells you, oh, great job. You know, if you don't wash them long enough, it gives you like that 20 or 30 seconds to wash your hands, so that people really know that it's not just this 1 minute, 1 second, uh, uh, put it under the water, no soap. So it's really, I just wanted to add that. I thought that was important. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you touch on something that's very I guess very valuable and has a lot of potential yet to be realized, and that is the use of devices to
Yes,
assist us in our journey.
well, yeah,
So, you know, the obvious ones that spring to mind would be like the smart watches, smartphones, and those
yeah,
kinds of things. But there are also other home diagnostic devices that can help you understand what you may be facing.
right, right.
Certainly, we all did home testing for COVID.
Yes,
You know, if you have
yes,
the symptoms, nasal swab. I think 20 years ago, people thought you could never trust an individual to be able to diagnose themselves for COVID or for
or
any kind of
something.
viral infection.
Yes, yeah,
How times change, and
right.
they change on the basis of improved technology, and we're kind of on the cusp of, you know, the future is very exciting, but maybe a little bit scary when you overlay AI onto the
Oh,
existing diagnostics and so on, and you know, everything could come into play. These are good tools to expand the self-care opportunities for people,
yes,
and using these tools properly, indeed using these diagnostic tools, other medical kinds of devices, whether it's heart monitor
right.
program. You've seen the digital, they'll do an instant cardiogram, electrocardiogram for you.
Yes,
That and taking the medicines that you're using properly, don't exceed the doses, read the labels, all of those responsible use of medications and health interventions. That's
right.
the seventh pill. So taken as a whole, all those seven components, if you're following all those seven components, you're doing excellent. But I always say, you know, again, like earlier, just start with something. Pick a
Yes,
pill that you feel most comfortable with,
Yes.
Get involved in that pillar and move forward from there. Add another one when you're ready.
I just love those 7 pillars of self-care that the International Self-Care Foundation espouses. David, International Self-Care Day. It's celebrated, I love this, the 24th of July each and every year, and provides a focus and opportunity to raise the profile of healthy lifestyle and the 7 pillars, of course, and self-care programs around the world.
The 24th of July was picked because that date numerically is 24/7.
I love that. I love that. Yes.
Yes, and that was kind of the motto. Self-care is a 24/7 activity.
Yes.
It should be mindful about it's an ongoing activity. It's not a one-shot deal. That was the inspiration for picking the date for International Self-Care Day.
Okay, so so the inspiration for picking, and also it's to promote that self-care is just a vital part of our foundation of our health and well-being, period.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
And ISF is very grateful that the World Health Organization picked up on this, and the whole month of July is Self-Care Month now.
Oh, okay, wonderful. That's excellent. Yes.
It's certainly dedicating those kinds of things and having WHO support those initiatives gives a larger voice to self-care.
So now that the World Health Organization has announced the self-care month, what's the theme? Is it self-care for all, or?
So glad you like that one, because now we've added a little bit of a tag for that. It's self-care for all by 2030.
Okay, great. It continues to be. That's wonderful. That would be the best gift that we give to humankind, right?
Yes, and we're under no illusions that the world will be 100% self-caring and mutual caring and self-driven healthcare and so on, all by 2030. But it's good to try and focus on building that momentum so that everybody's singing from the same song sheet, at least by the late 2020s.
Yeah, completely. That's great. I think self-care is also evolving to become more like social self-care, or rather what you had just previously referred to, how self-care may start with the individual, but it certainly affects your family, your friends, your community, and so forth, right?
Exactly. It introduces more the self-carer aspect to this. And it says, okay, while self-care is often focused on the self-carer, it also affects those around them.
Yes.
And it goes on to talk a bit more in details of how do we improve the environment for self-care.
Right.
And there are many ways, but aside from the number one way is for individuals to adopt it at their own level. Then it's, what kind of barriers do they encounter when they go out to try and practice self-care in a mindful way?
And then when we're talking about self-care, it's really preventative practices, right? Preventative practices.
They're basically, you have mental and physical well-being.
Yes.
And emotional well-being, although I usually put emotional a bit in between the mental and the physical. And
spiritual, right?
Yeah. Take the totality of yourself.
Yes.
And then anything you do to care for it is by definition self-care.
What do you think about social self-care?
Self-care is a social tool. It's a social being, so to speak.
Yes.
You don't manage self-care on your own all the time. That is too isolationist. It's not going to optimize your ability to stay healthy in all respects. It is very much social. It's back to that. You're the self-carer, but it's not just you that you're caring about. You have other people to help. You can help others. That's just the definition of a social environment where self-care plays a predominant role in your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
The best way to describe the relationship between emotional intelligence and self-care?
Well, okay, emotional intelligence, from my perspective, the number one asset for emotional intelligence is self-awareness.
Yes.
There are a number of things like self-regulation, awareness of your social situation and conflict management and all those things that emotional intelligence covers.
Yes.
But our own self-awareness is the first step on that path to know how to build relationships with other people, but mostly how to build a positive relationship with your own psychological well-being and your own physical health.
Yes.
And it's not just, quite frankly, just as an aside, it's not just dealing with your health related aspects. Having that self-awareness
Yes.
allows you to understand better how others perceive you. And when others perceive you in the way you'd like to be perceived, through your awareness of what your positive and negative things are, you can really work on managing your own emotional intelligence and emotional well-being. And this relates to the 7 pillars, obviously, because to
Yes.
be self-aware, you have to take that first step of that journey, is take a look at the 7 pillars, pick one, make a commitment to the first pillar of improving your self-care knowledge. And the first step in that is recognizing maybe you don't have as much knowledge as you would like to have.
Right.
Or if you're self-aware enough to know and you do have that knowledge, be aware of, okay, what are some of the other pillar aspects that I need to work on? Or can I help other people understand self-care better?
Our philosophy is that true self-care relies on 4 pillars of a healthy lifestyle, is completely in alignment with your 7 pillars. And that's exercise, nutrition, rest, healing, and mindfulness meditation. And this is our formula for health, happiness, and longevity. When these 4 pillars are in alignment, we can achieve harmony and equilibrium. We asked you before, and I'll ask you today, what is your daily wellness routine and what self-care tools do you use?
Started mentioning this earlier, but good oral health in the
Oh,
morning
absolutely.
and evening is essential.
Yeah.
I do on a daily basis. I probably do between 10 and 20,000 steps. Again, if we look at individualization, I live in Canada, and quite frankly, sometimes in the peak of winter, it's hard to get in 20,000 steps because you can't even step outside for 10 seconds.
I know.
Summertime's much better.
Yes.
You usually get in some fresh air and lots of steps. So you kind of adjust. You move to an indoor facility.
Right.
You can use stairs in the house. You can do a number of things,
Yeah.
but it's not necessary to settle down and do a 2-hour routine. Just small 5-minute sets of activity throughout the day. I try and do that, get up and move around.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And on the the good nutrition side, try and I cook most of the meals, so I try and make sure that it's reasonably well balanced and
Right.
appeals to all palates and allergies and so on in the family.
Yes.
But also, I do have some food allergies as well, so I do take some
Yes.
supplementation. My particular ones, omega-3, a magnesium supplement, and some vitamin D and B12.
Right.
I don't take the vitamin D in the summertime because I do get enough, liquid sunshine vitamin D, but in winter months, so again, being aware of your environment will
Right.
kind of drive your behaviors around what kinds of things that you feel that you will benefit from. And so again, I'm probably at the stage where I could do better on some pillars. I'm doing okay on others. And I, at least if I sit down and think about it, I realize, like we talked about earlier, how many things you do as a normal part of your routine that you don't even think about, but
Right.
that you have to be good self-care practices.
That's great. I'm so happy that you mentioned about the steps, because I was looking at the steps I did, and last week, I think it was like on a Thursday, I did 18,000 steps, and then on a Saturday, I did 18,000. And I want to mention, it wasn't on the treadmill or anything. That was just walking and moving like up and down the stairs, just like you're mentioning. So you can just be moving, right?
Mhm.
Just that movement is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just getting the blood flowing is
Yeah.
a huge benefit. Just right there.
Completely. I want to share an excerpt from my book, Sonia's Ring, 11 Ways to Heal Your Heart. Physical and spiritual well-being is necessary for life and growth. It is what helps to keep us alive, maintains and nourishes love, faith, hope, perseverance, compassion, and kindness. All of this is available for you. So reach out and grab what is yours. Is there any particular message that you would like to make sure we communicate and share with our worldwide audience, David?
I'm going to build a little bit on exactly what you were talking about physical and spiritual well-being necessary for life and growth. I mean, a lot of times we think of ourselves as, in these little day-type compartments, and it becomes a bit of a struggle sometimes. We can't look past today, and if we do, it looks scary. And I think there's a real opportunity to, the more you make self-care a habit, the more confidence you feel, and the more you have the ability to kind of look forward to other times that things, if they're going but poorly today. You've had the experience of how good a day can be, and so you can look forward to living some of those days again. And life is not a bowl full of jelly. We
Yes.
often have hardships and so on. And again, the more you practice self-care in both in physical, mental, emotional aspects of your life, the more likely it is you're going to be able to ride those bumps. So, like a big ocean liner sits atop the wave crests and it doesn't move as much because people had experience in designing those, versus always, being at the top or being at the bottom of the wave. It's you try and, basically level out life's experience to make it a much more satisfying physical, mental, and emotional experience.
Yes. Wow. Is that so true? David, how important is self-care literacy as relates to communicating this message to as many people possible? And what are you finding to be the best method to increase wellness and self-care literacy? I just wanted to ask you that before we.
Sure. So self-care literacy it's one of those things that it's not been well defined historically, but we're getting better at it. And it is really self-care literacy to those who maybe are just encountering the term for the first time.
Yes.
They think it's all about, okay, well, then I guess I got to know how to, treat my own whatever disease, like my own cardiovascular abnormalities.
Yes.
It's not. And, self-care literacy in its simplest form is just knowing that there is self-care assistance available, and then understanding the first step is to go get it.
Right.
The tools that are essential, again, the communication tools that are essential, is to let people know that they're not alone, that they do have access to different kinds of self-care tools.
Yes.
Second part is the trickier part is how and where to access good self-care advice.
Right.
It's got to be quality information. And I know there are efforts underway by several organizations to validate information that's on the web, give it sort of the seal of approval that this information is true and it's not just a commercial push for whatever.
Product or something. Yeah.
And then the other side of it is, while a lot of what we talked about is, self-directed healthcare or informed healthcare.
Right.
That emotional and spiritual side of it sometimes gets overemphasized at the peril of the physical.
Right.
And other times the physical gets overemphasized at the peril of the emotional. So balance, that's the key to everything. I would say don't overdo any one thing, everything in moderation. So if we think that, sometimes there is a perception that self-care is too self-indulgent, it's selfish. It's,
Right.
like you say, is it really just take a bubble bath? It's not
Yeah.
really self-care.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it is, because if that's what's helping calm you and bring you some, stability in your emotional, spiritual moment, that is self-care, but it's not all of self-care.
Completely. Yes. And
And
it's not
that,
vacuous. It's not vacuous. It's not empty. It's not frivolous. Frivolous is the better term, right?
yeah,
Frivolous.
and that goes back to self-awareness. I mean, if you choose um, to a certain, relaxation technique,
Yeah.
uh, and you're doing it, and you're self-aware that I'm doing this because it'll help me emotionally, my mental health. That's great.
Right.
If it's just I don't know, for some kind of physical pleasure, then that's your reward. Fine. I I just all I'm saying is that self-care is a broad remit. No one part of it is better than the other, and to be self-care literate, you should have avail yourself of all the possibilities. As we look around today, see that there's a much greater willingness and appreciation by people that to take charge of their own health more than just rely on somebody else to do everything for them.
Yeah.
And that always bodes well for self-care.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's also there's more tools. There's more tools available, more reliable tools, credible tools
Yeah,
available, digital health tools available. So then I think that also goes together with people's desire and need and interest and so forth to embrace those tools and techniques, right?
exactly.
Yeah. Mm. Thank you for joining us on Tita Talks. Thank you for discussing the healing power of wellness, a self-care tool for you, and International Self-Care Day 2023. For more information, please go to www.wellnessworldusa.com, www.titatalks.com, and follow us on Instagram at wellnessworldusa, at Tita Talks Official, at We Love Tita Talks, and at Sonia Tita Popolo. And for more information about International Self-Care Foundation, then please go to www.isfglobal.org and follow them on Instagram at ISF Global. Thank you so much, David.
All right, thanks.